Hello and welcome to the last day of the Zero Project Conference and another exciting fireside chat. My name is Phil Minardi and I am a white male with short brown hair, navy sport coat today, probably a couple of bags under my eyes from a night of libations and jazz music. But welcome everybody for joining us. An exciting discussion we are going to be having this afternoon. I am the co-founder of a company called Build Within, which is a technology company based in the United States that uses agentic AI and machine learning to help organizations start, manage, and scale on-the-job training programs. We are here today to talk about a topic that is near and dear to all of our hearts, which is workforce and in particular apprenticeships. And how we as a community can help companies, help entrepreneurs, help disabled individuals get into lifelong fulfilling career journeys. I have the true privilege and joy of being joined by two titans in that cause. I'm going to start with my right and go through. We have Diego Mariscal, who is the founder and CEO of Together International. Together is the leading startup accelerator founded by and for disabled entrepreneurs. Diego and his team supports entrepreneurs across 15 countries. And at this point, I think over 700 entrepreneurs start and scale their companies in industries across the board. To his right, we have Mary Fernandez Aras, who is the global lead for accessibility, disability, and neuro inclusion at Cisco Systems. She is a very accomplished public speaker as well as a published author. Both of them titans in the industry, and I'm excited to have them here with me today. And I will take a point of privilege and say they are both living in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area. So we have a good representation of the East Coast of the United States here today. With that introduction, we're going to jump into it. I'm going to start off with you, Mary, with a quick question of why is the entrepreneurship mindset so important in the corporate culture?
Yeah, thank you so much, Phil. And just quick visual description, I am a brown woman, curly hair. I'm wearing a white pinstripe suit with white open-toe shoes, and sometimes you can see the slightly scuffed red bottom when I move my feet because I'm ADHD and I can't stay still. And that's because they were dancing all night at my wedding, so, you know, there's that. So entrepreneurial mindset, it's really interesting, and I love this question because in corporations, we are very big ships, right? And why did the Titanic crash? Well, it couldn't turn around fast enough. It's not agile enough. It's so large. Very stable, but very large. And that's what corporations ultimately are, very stable and very large. And so within, in order to innovate, you have to always have this tension of having agility, creativity, and adaptation. But it's really hard to do that when you're really, really large and really stable. And so that's why, even when I was getting my MBA, one of the things that we talked about was the skill set of entrepreneurial mindset, which is being able to take a risk, being able to fail and to fail quickly, and then to learn and adapt, and being able to take an idea, to incubate it, pilot it, see where the flaws are, see where the strengths are, and then be able to scale. And so because we're in a stable ship, we can scale faster because we have the resources, we have the infrastructure, which is oftentimes what a smaller, like a startup doesn't have. But you have to be able to nurture that safety within to be able to fail, to be able to make mistakes, and to incubate really good ideas. And what we also know about entrepreneurial mindsets and entrepreneurship is resilience, right? Because you have to be able to pivot, to be able to get up, and to take it, right, as a lesson learned.
I love that, Mary. And Diego, Mary mentioned a couple of times here the idea of building within and nurturing talent. Those are kind of the cornerstones of the apprenticeship model. Can you maybe explain to folks at home or in the audience here today that may not have had a lot of exposure to apprenticeships, can you kind of give them the elevator pitch of what an apprenticeship is and why Together International is investing in that model for its partners?
Perfect. Absolutely. Thank you. So I'll start with a visual description, and the benefit of me is that I always wear the same uniform when I go to conferences. So once you hear a visual description, it won't change. So I am wearing a dark suit with a blue shirt that says Disability Project Empower and red shoes. So in case you lose me in the crowd. So apprenticeship models and entrepreneurship, and specifically for Together International. So apprenticeship are these very innovative models that actually have been around for a number of centuries now, which is these models where a more experienced professional teaches sort of the tricks of the trade to a lesser experienced professional. So we can think about it as a mentorship model. What is unique about the apprenticeship model is that they are wage employees that are receiving on-the-job training and that they're recognized for their labor. And they have to follow a set of standards and guidelines that, at least in the United States, are regulated by the Department of Labor, and make sure that the employee is meeting a certain competencies or hours, so that if they transition out of that particular job, you can still be confident that they'll have those skill sets. And that is very important in the entrepreneurship space in particular, because like Mary said, on the corporate world, you have to learn to be agile, you have to learn to innovate, you have to learn to pivot, and that's exactly what you're doing in a startup, right? And so having the ability to codify those learnings and to say to an employer, we can demonstrate through this model that this individual has those skill sets, it's innovative of itself and disruptive of itself. So very proud to be partnering with you all. I hope I did a good job of explaining what apprenticeships are, and if not, I will let you fill the gaps.
Yeah, Diego, if anything can be said about 2GI and I would say Mary's work at Cisco is it is ahead of the curve, right? And I think to Diego's point, the power of apprenticeships is in the doing. So it gives an individual the opportunity to walk into a full-time job at a company or an organization and learn on the job and gain the skills that they need to be successful for the longevity, for the life of their career. Diego, I'm going to follow up that a little bit. Can you maybe talk about the partnership with Google.org and what you're doing to facilitate entrepreneurs getting into apprenticeship roles with companies and organizations?
Absolutely, absolutely. Super proud of that role. So I'll just set the stage by saying this is the first of its kind apprenticeship model, and it is codifying the startup journey and the startup environment. So the apprenticeship, which is already registered thanks to a partnership with Bill Within, already registered by the Department of Labor, and it's a startup executive. And what it does is it codifies the startup journey, and it allows for individuals who want to learn more about the startup journey to work at a startup or at an established company in their innovative department, so that they can learn the tricks of the trades of what it looks like to be an entrepreneur, so they either maintain their employment with the startup or the company, or they go on and they launch their own program. What we are doing specifically is we are supporting 100 apprentices around the world, both in Latin America and the US, with the support of Google.org and other partners, to make this a reality and to demonstrate how entrepreneurship can be a workforce development strategy.
I love that, and it's I'm going to pull on a thread that Mary mentioned a little bit earlier, is that the 2GI team is giving individuals the opportunity to go into an organization and learn and sometimes fail a little bit, but ultimately grow. Mary, I want to turn it over to you and ask you a question. What does having a apprentice entrepreneur in a company contribute to long-term success of the culture and of the organization itself?
As I pass the mic, I just want to flag we have 5 minutes on the clock.
Amazing. Oh, thank you so much. So there's a couple of things that I kind of wanted to add. One is that oftentimes people with disabilities, we live under a microscope. And every action and everything that we do is overly examined. And that happens a lot at work, too. So if I make a mistake, people are like, well, then we will never be able to I'm blind. We'll never hire a blind person because Mary Fernandez, once upon a time in 1995, made this one mistake, and it's now 2035, right? And this is, and we're laughing, but this happens because that's kind of like that minority tax. And so when we think about entrepreneurship, when we think about innovation, and when we think about what it has taken the most creative minds to change the world, inventors, you have to fail a whole lot. But you don't get judged because, one, you're really outside the margins and you're kind of working on your own, or two, you hold other identities where you're given that grace. And I think what I love about apprenticeships is that understanding of like, hey, we're learning, but we're actually learning together because I get to learn from somebody who is very used to working with very little resources, with very little support, with very little infrastructure, and just pivots and turns and makes it work. It's like a dance, it's a ballet. And to be able to offer that stability and learn with them, I think is what is the most beautiful, is giving us all the opportunity. And I think there's always goodness in any established anything to bring in new people. I love new people. I'm like, ask me the questions, because sometimes you do the same thing over and over and you want to change and you can't see because of your proximity to whatever work you do. You can't see where the mistakes are. You can't see what you're doing wrong because you're so close to it, you lose perspective. And that's what bringing in that entrepreneurial, innovative mindset brings in of like, I'm learning, and also I have a question, and I love having people ask me questions, and I love having people like challenge my ideas. I think that one of the things that we need to get more resilient around to grow overall is to understand that we challenge ideas, not people, and that we have to lean into creative friction. And entrepreneurs and startups are used to doing that, are used to team members asking each other. And there's no hierarchy because we're all in it together. And I think overall in the world, we need more of that.
That is I was going to say, that's a mic drop moment right there. In the minute that we have left, Diego, always with the last word, I'm gonna ask you a question that has come up quite often during this conference when it comes to workforce development, which is for disabled individuals to view their disability as a competitive advantage. And I think when we talk about entrepreneurship, when we talk about entering the workforce or growing in the workforce, viewing your disability through that lens is critical. And frankly, I don't think we hear enough of that in society. Can you maybe talk a little bit more about how young entrepreneurs, or frankly anybody with a disability, can shape that mindset a little bit and use it in the corporate environment?
Absolutely. So I have cerebral palsy, right? And as a person with CP, I have literally fallen thousands of times, no exaggeration. And thousands of times I've gotten back up. Imagine what that does from a resiliency perspective, from a creativity perspective, and how you can harness that in a corporate environment or in an entrepreneurship environment. Right now, as part of the panel, what we were doing is I was voicing, we have 5 minutes left, and that helps Mary, the time, but it also helps us, be more inclusive, more creative, more resilient, and it helps us stay on task, right? And so that's a micro example of the innovation that can come when you're thinking about an inclusive environment.
I love that. And in 18 seconds, 15 seconds that we have left, I just want to thank Mary again and Diego for their leadership within their organizations, We are going to be around if you have any questions. If you're thinking about entrepreneurship, please reach out to any of the three of us here today. But with that, thank you for joining us online, and thank you for joining us in the audience, and have a good rest of your conference.